well instead of being able to say we help 2,000 learners and everyone a little bit. So how can you measure your impact? So for a very long time, we just really laser focused on a core group of learners and tried to do that well.
But who told you to do that? I mean, did you just wake up one morning and say, okay, I just want to focus? Or where does that come from?
I spent a year and a half in this community and I worked in a youth project from 98 until 2000. And that project was source funding from partners, and we push funding, money outside, for example. Use that example of a guest house. We're training 40 NGOs from all over South Africa to replicate our programs. We are in 200 schools nationwide. We have 40 NGOs at the moment from all 9 provinces that replicate our Changemaker program. They come twice per year to Port Elizabeth, to Gqeberha, spend a week with us to receive training, capacity building, the tools. So we could accommodate a very small scale. For example, right now, the noise in the background, that's grade 4 learners from Warmer Primary School. They come from 1 until 2:30 and they do computer classes with us for the whole year and visual arts and drama classes with us. We have 0 funding for it. It's an investment. But I know exactly if we get that well off the ground and a funder walks in and asks me, where can I support you? And I'm like, yeah, I would love to. You know, if we had a bit more material in that visual arts class or that computer lab is brilliant, but we would actually need a boost there. They can't say no because there it is. You can see it, right? You know, there's a specific need. Instead of me sitting here and I would be like, I can imagine how beautiful an arts class would be for grade 4 learners. And then,
what is it?
You know,
it's actually easier to, in inverted commas, attract funding when you're doing something than it is when you're not doing anything.
Absolutely. If you want to have a sponsor for your podcast, you want to show that sponsor that X amount of people listening every week or every month, and then you can sell it to him instead of saying, I'm thinking of. There's that product I'm thinking of. What do you want to? And then the funder is like, call me when you. Call me when you're doing it, as I can, to invest in property that I find important and property that finances this next property. That's what I do with Massifunde as well. I'm wearing clothes that I bought 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not investing on. I'm not spending there. You know, down to earth. That's where I can save. That's what I'm trying to teach my kids. They hate it. You know, it doesn't have to be an iPhone. It can be a sample phone. What do you need it for?
It's the GLC Podcast with Luphumlo, Joka, and I always say I've got a special guest, but today is very, very special because I've got someone with me that I look up to and someone I've been following for quite some time. I don't know how long it's been since we first met. I'm trying to think. I don't know. But we are coming to you from Massifunde at Walmer location at Gqeberha and Port Elizabeth, and we're very excited to be talking to the founder and visionary of Massifunde. You'll correct me if I don't get the surname. I've been practicing, but if I don't get it right, Mr. JONAS SCHUMACHER.
Beautiful. Spot on.
Man, how are you doing? Thanks for having us here. You've done a great job with this place and how it looks. I think we'll shoot B-rolls, guys, so that we can capture how it looks, so that people can see. But you've done an amazing job. Well, congratulations and well done.
Thank you so much and welcome to Massifunde.
Yeah. How are you? How are you feeling? Start of the year. It's January.
It's a good
it's
year.
February. It's February. Yeah.
2025 is going to be a healthy year for me. That is my objective, and I've been very healthy so far. And
you look very healthy.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah. This year I'm trying, so it feels good. This year has started really great.
Yeah. Man, I wanna talk about how you landed up in South Africa. Well, there are tons of things I wanted to talk about, but I want us to start with how you came to South Africa. But because your story is very interesting, what you've built in Walmer Township is amazing. I think almost everyone in Walmer Township knows Jonas. I think if you walked around here at night, you wouldn't get mugged. I think you don't know.
I would guess that people know me.
Yeah. But for the people that don't know you, let's start with how you came to South Africa and your experience and how that was, and how you then ended up here building a non-profit?
Okay. Well, my story starts in 1998. Before I finished school, I went touring with a school choir, singing through South Africa. And we went through the whole country, Kruger, Durban, Cape Town. And we spent a day in Port Elizabeth, it was called back then. Yeah. And we had a day here in Walmer Township. And that day was a life-changing experience for me. During the day, we walked through the community. Some of local choir singers took us around, and I remember for me that was an overwhelming experience. I kind of wasn't prepared. I had just seen for 2 weeks the beautiful side of South Africa. We just went through the touristic sides, and I was personally wanted to become a musician. I didn't look much into politics and society. And then we were dropped in this township. It was a Saturday, and you know how Saturdays townships can look like. It was a hot day, I didn't feel connected to the community when I walked through it for the first time. But then the very same evening, we gave a concert with 3-4 choirs from the township, from other townships, Obecha singers here from Walmer, Joy of Africa. And it was the same people that I wasn't able to really connect during the day, but in the evening when we did that concert with those choirs, it blew me away. The energy that was in that room, the way the people were celebrating life, the way the people were celebrating music was just amazing. So after that concert, I went to the contact person that we had here that brought us into the town. She was like, can I come back when I finish school just for a month? And then he said, yeah, a month is a bit short. Why don't you come longer? And then I ended up coming for a year and a half instead of going to the army back in Germany. So at that time, military service was still compulsory. So I came for a year and a half and did my German community service in Walmer Township, and started first in a youth project, living in the suburb. After a couple of months, I felt that urge to show solidarity, and all my friends were from Walmer Township, and I felt odd driving in and out, so I said, I want to move in, and I moved in with a friend of mine.
What year was it?
That was in 99. Yeah, I came in 1998, early 1999. I moved then into the township, and I stayed for a year here in January Street with the Mabelo family, and at that whole experience of how it is to stay in a township, in a tin shack, how you have to place your pot when it rains. And
you stayed in a shack?
Yes, it was one of the old warmer houses that are made out of corrugated iron. It's now replaced with an RTP house. And yeah, the whole experience, you have your toilet outside. We call it the mobile shower that we had to wash the plastic bucket in the morning. You warm up your water on a gas stove.
Yeah.
And so that experience was special for me. The whole time in the township was special for me. The way people treated me, the way I was able to blend in. And at that time, definitely, I was moving day and night through the township, and I felt 100% safe. And but that gave me an insight into township life that I still benefit from today.
Yeah.
When people would complain about the helper that comes half an hour late, and they have no understanding that that lady didn't get up 30 minutes ago, jumped under the shower, got into her car and drove over, but got up at 4:30 and got water and heated it up, and it takes ages to iron if you don't have electricity. And you go to the taxi rank and you wait and you go to Central and you wait for the next taxi, and then you walk. 30 minutes delays is quickly comes quickly. So that kind of understanding, I would say I still benefit from that. I have experienced that, and went back to Germany afterwards. And I must say that year and a half in South Africa kind of never let go of me, kind of. So my whole career idea changed from I wanted to become a musician, going to the radio direction.
What
media.
type of musician would you have been if you?
Well, I play the drums and the saxophone, and I was in bands back then. We were producing CDs, and we were having that big dream. But with the arts, you never know whether you make it. So I wanted to study media technology, where I could basically do what we do right now, to either be in the back or in the front of any types of TV or radio production. I came back from South Africa, and I said, nah. Actually, there was an interesting, on my farewell party in Walmer Township, there's one of my friends, he held a speech, and he said, you will one day become a politician. And I was like, nah, I will never become a politician. But when I got back to Germany and I didn't know what I wanted to study, and that media thing wasn't longer for me, there was a chance to still hop onto political science in combination with African anthropology. And I remembered his words, and I was like, before I just do nothing, let me hop on. And I ended up doing a master in political science and African anthropology, and then business management.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. I mean, we're sitting at Masifunde, and it's a very popular, well-known nonprofit. I mean, you've done amazing work, and your impact even spans through other countries and other parts of South Africa as well. Talk to us a bit about let's fast forward to 2004 and how you started this nonprofit and what was happening in your life at the time.
Okay.
Because I'm sure you didn't have to.
No, and my vision was to go kind of into the global south, work in projects, but I came in 2003. I did an exchange year at now Nelson Mandela University. I studied South African politics and political economy for a year, and at that time there was an opportunity. A choir again from Germany visited, and they wanted to support children from Warmer Township, and my friends from Warmer Township and me, we said, we can do that, and we enrolled 5 children from Warmer Township at Clarendon Park Primary School, so into a former Model C school, and that was the idea. We thought, okay, they're gonna pay directly to the school, no idea of an NGO or anything, so we enrolled 5 children at a school. I came back to Germany in 2004, and I remember my dad asking me. I told him, like, hey, I enrolled 5 kids in a school. And he's like, oh, wow, how old will you be when they finish school? And I looked at him like, 36. Yeah. And that's when I sunk in, like, 36, where am I?
Yeah.
So and that's when I realized, like, wow, that comes with tons of responsibility. What if something happens to me, health-wise or financially, or if I can't do it anymore, if I have family of my own. So that's when I realized, like, okay, I need to actually just create some kind of systems that those 5 children are taken care of, to make sure if I can't anymore that their school fees are paid, basically. The moment they went to school then in 2004, they needed more support. School fees wasn't all, and transport on rainy days, and homework support, and then a mother died, and the kid needed social assistance, and very quickly we realized, like, it's not just school fees. If you take children from informal settlements who have hardly any domestic support structures, so we needed to build more around that.
Yeah.
And
who's we at the time? It's you and...
that was at that time friends from Warmer Township that are partly still involved. Not all are still alive. And then it was myself in Germany. And so my task, I was in Germany, and my task was to source funds if we had more needs here. The guy said, like, we need that. We need someone who does homework with the kids. And then my reaction was like, well, it would be easier to justify to have a homework teacher in the afternoon if it was more than 5 kids. So let's just find an additional 5 kids. And to finance them, I sent out an email in Germany. That email went viral, and a lot of people went on board and said, I want to support school fees for a kid. So all of a sudden we had the means to do something, and it grew from there. And while we grew then in South Africa by having 10 children, adding some homework support in the afternoon, transport, social assistance, a bit of life skills, etc. And it grew mainly needs-based. In Germany, it grew by the people who support it. By coincidence, the then German Minister of Justice and the now President Steinmeier of Germany became funders back then. And,
the current president?
The current president. He was at them the Minister of the Chancellor's office under Gerhard Schröder at that time, and he became a monthly supporter of one of the children, and that gave. And the Minister of Justice became the patron of our organization. She came to me and said, "I want you to register an NGO, because I want a tax receipt. People who give money and that goes straight to them. You need to have all the paperwork in place. You need to be able to report." So. And I said, I really don't want to actually register an organization. We want to really informally collect money, send it straight to the school. That's it. We registered then that organization. In return, she became the patron So the German Minister of Justice was the patron of an organization that was
Wow,
then
that's huge.
had a couple of German students, and then all of a sudden there was an influx of students who wanted to volunteer.
From
So
Germany.
Germany. So we all of a sudden had groups of Massifunde at University of Mainz, at University of in Berlin, in Darmstadt, in a couple of cities. Little Massifunde groups popped up of students, often exchange students who came back from South Africa who wanted to just give back. So it grew in Germany into a network of volunteers, and it grew in South Africa.
And that time you were still based in Germany.
Yes,
You hadn't moved.
At that time I was a student.
You're a student.
So that was, and at that time we had a kind of student system that was not bachelor and masters, so it was very free. So if you study 4 years or 6 years kind of, and studying is for free in Germany. I was working at the consultancy on the side. So, and I spent my nights building that organization. It was like a hobby. It was nice. Oh, let's do a website, let's do a brochure. Oh, let's put an article in the newspaper. Oh, we won a prize. Oh, so there was all that opportunity. Oh, new people come in, and we had that drive. We were students, very idealistic. So the idea was, how can we build the best organization possible from an ethical point of view? How do we need to be set up?
Yeah.
So every cent that, until today, every cent that's donated in Germany, it's important for us that it goes to South Africa in our structures, that the whole fundraising in Germany is 100% on volunteer shoulders. So if someone donates €100, that money lands here, and we can make projects with it. In other bigger organizations, we always criticized, well, you donate €100, 40 get stuck in the global north, in the administration, and then 40 get stuck in, and then 20 maybe end up in a project, you know. So how can we make sure that whatever is donated, that it really gets as close to the ground as possible and translates into projects? So those were things that drove us back then, and that brought in other students and other folk to believe in what we do as well, and we grew. And then came 2009, we won a couple of awards in Germany, big nationwide awards, got quite some publicity. A big German corporate got on board that offered to finance the education center to build it with us that we're sitting in right now. And my guys in South Africa, my friends back then who were still running Massifunde, were like, Jonas, we don't know how to do the next step.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, you can open an office, you can employ. And I just finished my business studies, and I'm like, okay, let me take 3 years. I resigned with my job as a consultant, and I wanted to come for 3 years
What
to South
type of
Africa.
consultant were you?
It was a consultancy that does basically work in the section between politics, society, and economy, wherever that overlaps. For example, I was in a project that was working on the extension of the Frankfurt airport, where the people who live there say, we don't want the airport to be extended. The economy says we need to extend it, we need more business, and the politicians are in between. So we organized a dialogue forum where people sit, and we took 2 years to negotiate and came up with a compromise where everyone kind of was on board.
Sounds like a politician type of...
Yeah, it's a mediation process ultimately, and a lot of those tools that I learned there, we still use here today. So how can you have a room of people discuss at the same time? Small groups, let each table of 5 people discuss, and everyone gives a feedback. So instead of input of one person speaking and 500 have to listen, there could be also 50 tables of 10 where everyone discusses and the ideas get shared in front, and all of a sudden you make sure that everyone participates, you know, kind of, and everyone's voice is heard. So those kind of tools we learned there, we use them at Massifunde here when we work with learners, but we use them still today when we work with NGOs. We do monthly or quarterly luncheons at Massifunde for NGOs, and we use those tools.
Yeah. Again, you run a very successful non-profit. You're very involved in the day-to-day operations. I'm not sure if you still are, but you're very involved. You're hands-on, and I mean, the non-profit is growing in leaps and bounds. I was just saying before we started that the last time I was here, there wasn't a preschool in front, and all of a sudden there's and then I'm sure next time I come, this whole street will probably be. But I've got a list of things that I want us to get into. One of them is what goes into building a successful non-profit. Right? I'll tell you why I'm asking. A lot of people that listen and follow us are other entrepreneurs or people that are just starting out and building something.
Yeah.
building a non-profit, building a business, whatever the case may be. You're now 20 years plus old, right? So what goes into building a quality, successful non-profit that can operate without you as a founder?
I would say, first of all, patience. You would need to have a long breath for it. You need a solid vision. And I think what is important is to focus on less and do that properly. I see a lot of NGOs. If you go into
That's very important.
If you go into our communities, you get very quickly overwhelmed with the needs out there. And what I needed to learn at the beginning for a long time was to say no. Oh, why don't you help? You know, and the elderly, and what about the people with special needs, and you know.
That's actually something I've learned from you.
And that is it is so important, and it's not easy to say no. For the first, I'm sure, 10 years, we laser focused on learners in primary and high school age, and we didn't focus on numbers. We focused on quality. How can we support them holistically? What is needed? So we try to go into depth and make sure what we do really well, instead of being able to say we help 2,000 learners and everyone a little bit. So how can you measure your impact? So for a very long time, we just really laser focused on a core group of learners and tried to do that well.
But who told you to do that? I mean, did you just wake up one morning and say, okay, I just want to focus? Or where does that come from?
I spent a year and a half in this community, and I worked in a youth project from 98 until 2000. And that project was in many areas a failure. It was run by two very dedicated priests who have a big heart and who say yes to everything. Wherever they came into the community for that project, I could see that, yes, I will help you as well. And oh, there's a need as well. So that project constantly started, we need to do something for this and for that. And like, a feeding scheme here and the elderly. And what about the unemployed youth? We had zero resources. I was the only full-time employee, and I was 18. I was an employee. I was a volunteer, a community service. And everyone else was volunteering, and constantly they added new ideas because the need was so big. But so I realized the first thing that you need to do is you need to be laser focused on one specific area and let other people do other areas and learn to say no and build around that topic that you want to deal with.
Yeah.
Build your theory of change. How do you want to drive change in that specific area, and be good at it? And then get also your ducks in the row, you know, all your due diligence, all your paperwork. Make sure all of that is there 100%, you know, so that you legally and from an administrative point of view, you know, fully functioning. That is so important, you know. You will never be able to attract real funders' money if you're not able to provide all the tiring paper tigers that they ask for, that you know, your tax clearance and your proof of bank account and your public benefit and your non-profit and all those documents that need to be up to date, and the minutes of your board, and building a good board of directors. So I think there was, for a very long time, we actually did less than we could have done, and we grew the organization slower than we could have. And we're like, let's rather get it right. Let's get our systems in place. Learn. There was so much failure. There was so many tears in that process of like, oh, that's how it doesn't work. You know, how do you select the right people that have the right spirit and the right vision that want to follow you? You know, like how do you
you're
find
saying
the right
so many
partners?
things, and I just want to double click on some of these things you're saying. Right, you're the only person I can interject. So please, you know, like what you're saying about being laser focused. You know, when you said that, you've mentioned it to me in the past before. Just that power of focusing on one thing and being good at it instead of doing everything else at the same time. Yeah. How does that translate to business people, to entrepreneurs and business owners that will be watching you, right? Because I'm sure it doesn't, you don't have to be a non-profit leader to employ that mindset of being laser focused. How do you take that, and what does it mean for the entrepreneur? Before you move on to all of the other things.
Well, I think for an entrepreneur, it's exactly the same. What I know is that there's hardly any week for the last 20 years where I haven't pushed 60 hours for Masifunde.
You yourself?
Yes. Last night I went to bed at 2:30 in the morning.
That's crazy.
And I went to bed because I was really tired. But I was actually still shortlisting for 2 or 3 positions that we have out. And I enjoy that. Could have done longer, So nothing stops me actually except my body when I come to one, like, dude, you need to sleep and you're going to talk nonsense with Luphumlo. Sleep, dude. But so it's your business. If you're an entrepreneur, it's your business. And if you think you're going to make your business work by pushing 4 hours per day, it's not. If you're not working as hard as you would work if you work as an employee, I'm not sure whether entrepreneurship is the right thing for you. It comes with hard work, and you know how it is as well. How many nights do you spend working global leadership consultants, and the weekends that you need to push? And there is no one who pushes you. It's you who's pushing you. It's your drive. So, and then once it works, people are like, "Oh, you're so lucky." And they usually don't see that proposal was written on a Saturday and Sunday night, and
true.
the deadline was, and you're like pushing and walked in the next morning, and people are like, "Why are you so cranky?" And like, so that is the reality. So I think focus, push hard is exactly for an entrepreneur as well. And if you're an entrepreneur and you produce something, but you also do something else, and like if I hear guys, I have 4 registered businesses, I'm like, which one, where's your passion, where does 110% go in, I'm like, I'm doing a side job as well, and this, and I'm like, I would say, think, where do you have the best business case? What is most promising?
Nice way of saying it, business case.
The business case. Where
probability of success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look at that and then go full in, and then also be honest with yourself if there comes a time where something doesn't work as well. So I think to be critical with yourself, you can push for a certain period of time. I also see guys where I feel like, dude, you've been pushing that for 10 years. It is, try another avenue. And then you're like, but you hear those actors, they were only successful. Or the guy from KFC only made it when he was 65. I'm like, yes, but you need to put something to eat on your table. Maybe it is not for you, you know. So that is also a possibility, to be honest with yourself. You push for a certain period of time, really give it your everything, not half-hearted. And that, again, to go back to the non-profit as well, what was important for us, we did projects where we had funding for 3 years, and after a year and a half, we looked at it, and I had to make the call and say, like, I don't think we have the impact here that we could have. We could continue that half-hearted. Let's rather make a cut. Let's rather go back to the funder and say, sorry guys, we tried. In our proposal we said, but I don't think we achieved that. Would you allow us to tweak it and try it in a different way? Kind of, so to be self-critical about yourself. Look at what you've been doing as an entrepreneur. Look at, am I really on the right track? Am I really happy with having a turnover of 4,500 rand? Let me be. Am I doing my finances really properly? Am I rigid enough to do that properly, or am I half-hearted? You know, that kind of thing.
That's very interesting. You know, I was asking that question because I know that there's a lot of experience that you have even in the entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial landscape, because I think Masifunde also has various social entrepreneur enterprises. That's the various social enterprises. Okay, can you paint a picture of the model that you guys use, right? Like what type of structure is Masifunde? How have you guys structured it? Because I know that there's Masi Consult, you know, there's the BNB, there's Masi Tours, all of these things, you know.
Yeah.
How do you simplify it, and what kind of picture can you paint in terms of the structure that you've built?
Okay.
Without giving up your IP, of course.
No, we don't have an IP. There is no, everything is open source with us.
Okay.
So that is, I think, important as well, and that is also one part of our success. If we want to achieve our vision, we will not be able to do it alone. Within Warmer Township, there could be 4, 5, 6 Masifundes. So if another NGO comes in and they want to know, how do you guys do it, we share it.
Wow.
And if someone wants to replicate our programs, we give them the tools. And if they want to put Masifunde as a label on it, great. If they just want to do it by themselves, as long as they drive impact. So I don't think we run out of needs for organization like ours, and we shouldn't hold our cards too close to our chest. Our model is ultimately that at some point we realized we source funding from partners, and we push funding money outside. For example, use that example of a guest house. We're training 40 NGOs from all over South Africa to replicate our programs. We are in 200 schools nationwide. We have 40 NGOs at the moment from all 9 provinces that replicate our Changemaker program. They come twice per year to Port Elizabeth, to Gqeberha. Spent a week with us to receive training, capacity building, the tools. So we could accommodate them in a guest house, and the funding goes to them. Or we run our own guest house, which we can then turn into a training guest house where unemployed youth could receive the skill and learn how to run a guest house, how to work with guests, how to clean, how to prepare a room, to get ready for the hospitality industry ultimately. And then those NGOs, we host them within our own guest house. So instead of sending funding away to an external partner, we send it to the PTY Limited that runs our guest house, and that is owned by Masifunda, and we have basically a circular process like that. So, and we do the same when it comes to catering. In the early stages, we would buy the catering externally. Now we have here a restaurant within our Changemaker Academy. We get the best cappuccino in town, ship, and good catering. Thank you for laughing. And so we keep the catering within in the family, and we have youth that we train as kitchen assistants and as baristas, and after a 9-month cycle, they can seek employment outside. So all those social enterprises that we build are at the same time a training venue for youth, while it is a source of income. If we manage to achieve a profit in the enterprises, that profit flows into us being able to run a library at Woma Primary School or a library at Woma High School, where we might not have a direct funder for it. So the profits allow us to run such projects.
Are all of these things like part of a strategic plan that you draw up, or do they happen by accident?
A lot is organic growth, I must say. A lot is organic growth. We had a big strategic planning week. I think that was just before COVID, where we drew the bigger picture, and we realized we want to share our know-how. We would need a vehicle like Masi Consult that takes care of that aspect of capacitating NGOs. I came to a point where I felt like been doing that for now 20 years. Back then, maybe 15 years. I was like, I'd love to share kind of. So how can we do that? Let's register Masi Consult as a vehicle to coach NGOs and share and build capacity. And so at that time we built a big vision of Masifunda, and then kind of the advantage is if you have that big vision, whenever there's an opportunity for funding, whenever you interact, whenever there's a decision about how do we change a program, how do we make a next move as an organization, you have that in the back of your mind, and you can say, like, could that puzzle piece maybe lead us towards that? It is a lot of, I don't want to say trial and error. It's almost like a big puzzle to finance an organization like that. No funder gives you the money for the whole thing. There's a funder that's interested to giving us money for the preschool to build that building. We were lucky. One funder gave us the money for the whole thing, without the furniture. So we found another funder that says furniture is great, And then we didn't find a funder to finance the staff. So we found individuals who say, okay, we can, there's a handicap chair to go up. So we find an organization that finances projects for people with disabilities. So it's about connecting the dots, seeing like where is that funder. No, we don't do projects for that, but actually it could work here. So let's see whether they can close that gap with us. So that is kind of, it's a big puzzle, and it's not, sometimes a bit overwhelming to keep it all together, but that's actually how we run it.
I was just thinking that even that is a skill on its own, like that ability to source funding and to know where to look and how to do it and all of that, because when I speak to people that know you, people say you're very good at that. And people that look at you from afar, like, he's very good, he's very resourceful in how he raises funding and all of that.
I think what we're good at is keeping funders, and I think that's very important. It's very difficult to find a new funding partner that really can take over a year and multiple emails, meetings, proposals, and then you can still on the last day you can be turned down and sorry, doesn't happen, and you have nothing that you can do, and you invested days and days. So that's difficult. It's easier when you have a funder to keep that funder. That same applies, by the way, for good team members, where you realize that person has capacity, talent. Wow, we found someone that fits in. Make sure you keep those, you know. And the same with a funder. You find a funder, we feel like instead of looking constantly for new, we have, for example, a funder, and I won't say the name. They visited us last year, and they said, "Mr. Schumacher, do you actually know we have the policy that we don't finance a project for more than 3 years? You are in year 17."
Whoa.
And I'm like, "Oh, great." And he's like, "Yeah, we just cannot say no. You guys will love the work you do. We love the way you report. We just love you guys' work, and we believe in you guys. So we cannot stop." That's obviously a private funder, like a government funder wouldn't be able to do that. A policy is a policy. A private foundation has the liberty to say, okay, cool. But I think that's very important. I think we're really good in keeping that relationship with the funder, and we're not also, if you walk through our building, you don't find many logos of funders. And I tell that the funder, if you support us, we want you to believe in what we do, and I don't want you to do it because you have your logo on the wall. The company that built both wings of the Changemaker Academy, a multi-million project, they have a logo that size in the staircase. They didn't want it bigger, and no other company. So, and I think to have the self-confidence to speak to a funder like that, and she's like, "No, it's not sponsorship. Sponsorship would be you buy a space." To have your logo there, how much? It's partnership. Do you believe in what we do? Give us the money, and we make sure that we make the most out of the funds, and we make sure we report on the dot, and ideally on time or earlier. So we make it easy for you, and transparent for you, and those are the kind of the key aspects to make sure you keep a funder, and you build trust. And the interesting part is when you start an NGO, so everyone who's listening was maybe in the early stage, and you're like, how do you get to that point? You're like, you build around, if you have one funder, you build around that. You make sure, don't think now you have that funder, and let's focus, and it's back to laser focus. Focus on what that funder gives you money for, and make sure you over-deliver.
On the value.
Exactly. Make sure you show, he gave you money to have 100 kids kind of trained in whatever. Make sure you report, we managed 120, and we added this and that. Thank you. Without you, wouldn't have done it.
Let's talk a bit about entrepreneurship, right? Because when we were talking about this, I said you've got the benefit of being an outsider, in inverted commas, someone that comes from outside, and I'm assuming you would have a different perspective to what someone like me who grew up and who's all I know is South Africa, like the perspective that I would have, right? So when you look at South African entrepreneurs, what do you see? What's your perspective of how we build businesses and how we do things as opposed to other places and other countries? You know?
Okay, I don't have much insight into entrepreneurship outside South Africa, and I've been here now for most of my life, so I don't have much insight into entrepreneurship in Germany, and I've never been a real entrepreneur who grew up in South Africa, and even building the non-profit that we've built comes with my privilege of having the network to Germany and tapping into sources that maybe someone who started the same project within Warmer Township wouldn't have had the connection. So it's always difficult to compare and say. But what I see in some entrepreneurs, I find is sometimes my recommendation sometimes would be focus more on the business case and more on the hustle. And very often I find a lot of focus on the funding side of things. So starting a business with the focus of, so where can I find funding to finance that? And that's wrong already, because you should have a business that ideally finances itself.
Yeah.
So when we give out seed fundings and someone applies for money for an employee, I'm like, no, the employee should be, that's your running cost. The employee you should finance. A seed fund could be a new machine, building a new hall for your factory, production, that's a once-off where you would go to the bank and say like, and I'm going to pay it back. Would you invest in my business? The return of investment is, so you need seed fund, you need injection of funds. But when you start, I find it essential to focus on that business case more than you focus on, there's an opportunity at NYDA to get 150,000 rand, so I will submit my proposal and I wait whether it goes through or not. And when it comes through, I spent that money and it's going to be great. And then I need to most probably deregister my business and try it under a new name again. I've seen those.
And try for another opportunity.
Yes, but now I don't want to speak, I don't want to generalize what I just say, because we currently work with a bunch of entrepreneurs in our incubator where I see their hustle and they're there and they have their business and I can see it grow. So I just, if you ask me as an outsider to make a general statement about entrepreneurs, I don't think I can do that. But my recommendation, what I sometimes see is really that focus on the NYDA funding and this and that, and then being passive. And that's, and if I can swing it back to Asifunde and what we do is, I can't think of any time when we applied for funding without doing it yet. So I try to start something.
That's very interesting.
Let's go. Let's do it first on a very small scale. For example, right now, the noise in the background, that's grade 4 learners from Warmer Primary School. They come from 1 until 2:30 and they do computer classes with us for the whole year and visual arts and drama classes with us. We have zero funding for it. It's an investment. But I know exactly if we get that well off the ground and a funder walks in and asks me, where can I support you? And I'm like, I would love to. You know, if we had a bit more material in that visual arts class, or that computer lab is brilliant, but we would actually need a boost there. They can't say no, because there it is. You can see it, there's a specific need. Instead of me sitting here and I would be like, I can imagine how beautiful an arts class would be for grade 4 learners. And then,
what is it, laziness or
what?
That thing of always being passive and
no, I'm not
just
saying
waiting?
No, it's just a recommendation. Maybe it's not being aware that your chances are much better. If you want to start a business, start it. Hustle, push as much time as you can. When the kids sleep, you can add a bit more hours on the weekend. Be hard on yourself. Like, think, how much time can you really invest into it to make it grow? Don't look left, don't look right. Focus on your business. I think that is important, and don't wait for funding to come in. If you focus on your business for a year and you send out funding applications and NYDA comes by to do a site visit and they see what you're doing and they're like, oh, wow, They're like, and I won this competition and I'm selling and here are my financials, you can see my turnover is small, but you can see a growth, you can see, I can show you that I'm able to manage my finances. Here's my cash book, I'm running a barber shop, but I'm able to write down every client that came and how much it was and what my turnover per day was. Here's my cash book. It's very simple. It's just a question of discipline to write down a figure, 150 rand, the haircut, at the end of the day, add it up, and you have financials that you can show. So it is possible. No one is stopped to do basic bookkeeping, for example. So do it. Be hard on yourself. Try to instill those business principles, and then I'm sure the next funder that walks in would be like, okay, worthwhile supporting. He's hustling already. We want to push him to the next
100%.
level.
It's actually easier to, in inverted commas, attract funding when you're doing something than it is when you're not doing anything.
Absolutely. If you want to, have a sponsor for your podcast, you want to show that sponsor that X amount of people listening every week or every month, and then you can sell it to him instead of saying, I'm thinking of. There's that product I'm thinking of. What do you want to? And then the funnel is like, call me when you.
I'm thinking of.
Call me when you're doing it. And then so you need to kind of invest a bit from yourself, and if it's not money, then it's your time.
Let's talk about money, right? And it's you just mentioned that financial literacy. And you come across as someone, and you'll correct me here if I have the wrong perspective, but you come across as someone who's very financially literate and who is very specific, if that's the right word, about how you handle your finances and how you plan, and that spills over to Masifunde and your other ventures and all of that, because to a certain extent all of that is connected. I think you once mentioned something similar to me, that if you don't have your personal finances in check, that those habits will spill over to all of your other organizations or businesses or ventures that you run. So what can you share to people about the relationship that you have with money that helps you to build an organization that is thriving, and to build several organizations within this, or several offshoots that are thriving, number one, but also that helps you within your family and your private life to live comfortably. So what can you share about financial literacy? I'm not sure if my question makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I would generally say the skill of running a business is very similar to running a life. I think basic life skills of how you interact with people, relationship building, is what you need in business. Networking,
100%.
With the way you manage your social life, that's how 100%. You manage your, and financial literacy, the way you manage your personal finance, that is how you will manage your business's finances. So if you're not able to be economic with yourself and disciplined with yourself, you will most probably run your business in the same way. So there's one thing that always guides me, and that is comparing the standard of living with the quality of life. And I might earn 20,000 Rand per month. So I could push my standard of living to 20,000 Rand.
Because I earn 20,000.
Exactly. But I could also push it to 25,000 Rand. But even if I have it at 20,000 Rand, my standard of living, meaning what I earn, I spend, my quality of life will most probably be low. Why? Because most probably mid-month I will be broke. Most probably all those bills that come in will stress me. Exactly. So why not keep your standard of living below what you can afford? If I earn 20, let me have my standard of living as if I earn 15.
Okay.
And my quality of life will go up. Why? Because on a monthly basis I have 5K for free usage or for investment or for saving. So I won't be broke. So I always see that if someone was able to survive as an employee at Masifunde for 10,000 Rand on a 10,000 Rand salary, and comes a salary increase, new position, whatever, earns now 15K, how can that person be broke mid-month? Why not keeping it for another year or two as if you still earn 10? You were surviving on the 10. So just delay your growth just by a year or two. So when your salary grows, your standard of living just grows a bit behind it. But we're often tempted to overtake it. So, hey, I got an increase, now I earn 12. I get the new iPhone, and on a month, I get the new vehicle.
Get a better car,
Yes, you get the better, and you buy the car new, instead of buying a 2-year-old vehicle where it's half the, and those things, You think, yes, you can earn. You earn 2,000 Rand more. You could put all of that in a car installment on a monthly basis. But you could also save it and buy the car cash, or put a down payment on you, or invest it into a flat that, So think long term. Also, very often people don't realize when it comes to money, 10 years, you can pay off something, and 10 years is quick. We're in February. Yesterday was New Year's Day. That's how it feels. Time is so fast. So when it comes to money, people often don't realize how you can build wealth if you just regularly do something. So I think the advice that is in there that's how I personally live. I really spend as little as I can to invest in property that I find important, and property that finances this next property. That's what I do with Massifunde as well. I'm wearing clothes that I bought 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not investing on. I'm not spending there.
Yeah.
Down to earth. That's where I can save. So I'm trying to teach my kids. They hate it. It doesn't have to be an iPhone. It can be a sample phone. What do you need it for? Like, just be humble. Just live a bit below your means. You don't have to go out for dinner. You can cook. Those things. That's where you have the wastage. So the same thing with the standard of living and the quality of life also applies for managing a business or an NGO. If I have a budget financed at Massifunde and I manage to keep the organization within that budget, or maybe just a little bit below, if I just manage that every project just stays like 3, 4, 5% below what we have, the whole year will be smooth sailing, because the most important thing, the thing that stresses me the most is the fear of one day on the 25th not having enough on the account to pay the folk.
Yeah.
So let's just stay a bit below the standard of living of our organization, and the quality of life of all of us is better. Why? Because they know, okay, Schumacher will pay the salaries. That is one thing is guaranteed here. I manage the organization in a way. If you're on board beginning of the year, usually the year is financed. Yeah. So you don't have to stress about that. And it comes then with my expectations. If we guarantee your salary, I expect that the 38 hours that we pay you, that you give 100%. That's our arrangement, And it would fall apart if I would have June and July, where it's like, we're still waiting for the Department of Social Development, guys. Really sorry, they haven't paid us. So 3 months, no pay. And then the whole system will collapse.
That happens, actually.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah. My mom was a teacher, right? And I was always exposed to payday, she gets paid. Almost a day or two later, she's almost spent all of that on bills and anything, And the conversations around that in my communities with my family and all of that is always, man, I work hard, man. I must be able to enjoy my money.
Bring it straight to KFC and to McDonald's and to,
I must be able to blow it.
Yes. Yes, that's the...
How do you balance?
That's instant gratification instead of realizing the month is 30 days. I grew up as a teacher's son as well. My mom was at home. We were 4 children. And I never got clothes with a brand on. That's why I still don't need it. T-shirt is a T-shirt. It doesn't need to say Diesel or Levi's or whatever. Whenever we went on holiday, my parents were able to organize holidays. But before we do an outing, we're doing sandwiches. We're not eating out. We can buy a 5 liter of ice cream if we want ice cream and we eat it at home. We're not eating. It's 10 times more expensive at the touristic attraction. We bring our own, we fill the tap water into the bottles. Those little economic, that was just drilled into me, And that's how my parents were able to. But Dad was always driving a 3rd, 4th, 5th hand car. And as a kid, I was like, it would be nice if, it could be. And do we really have to be 4 kids on the back seat like this, But still, we drove to Italy and Denmark with it, and we stayed in humble accommodation, and he made things possible. But he was hyper-economic, and I don't know how he managed that. Even when you finish school, and he gave each of us, when we finished school, a lump sum that he saved for us. So there was not something like black tax, now you have your first job, but there was a lump sum that he saved for me out of his teacher salary. And that lump sum actually carried me through the first year and a half in South Africa when I moved here in 2009. That saved and it grew. Instead of, before I was a development worker, now I'm government employed from Germany. So it was there. He gave me that amount of money and said, it's for you. And I didn't spend it. And I would have been tempted to say, cool, I could buy myself a motorbike now. Or that could be a down payment for the first flat or nice clothes or a trip around the world. But he instilled that, don't touch it. Don't touch it yet. You will find the right time when you touch it. So just put it and invested it, stock market, and left it there and it grew. It was my starting capital in 2009 with other savings to live for a year and a half without any payment from Masifundo.
Spaza shops, right?
Spaza shops.
Spaza shops. You know, you and I had this conversation, and I'd love to get your views on it.
Okay.
About, you know, what's been happening in the country, spaza shops, you know, I think I don't know how to explain it, but in terms of my self-esteem, it's not so low that I can't take criticism, you know. So, you know, when I'm wrong, you know, I can take it. No, here you're wrong, you know. So I'm keen to hear, because look, this is my thought process, you know. You get a whole economy that is sort of, not an economy, but a whole part of society or a whole business sector that is being run by people, and there are all of these things that you're seeing on the media on a weekly basis, you know, about food that is poisonous and all of these rumors that you hear, you know. So you tend to then develop a certain viewpoint based on all of that, you know. So you shared some views on, which I think are really, really great, on the importance of knowing what type of spaza shop you're dealing with, in a way. I'm not sure if I'm putting that correctly.
I think the story was you posted a shop that your grandfather was running in. Where was it?
In Middelburg.
In Middelburg.
Yes.
And you said now it's run by foreigners, and that upset you. And your post was about that. And my response was, I'm a foreigner myself, so whenever I smell xenophobia, I'm allergic to it. I don't like it. So, and we're living in a day and age where messages are packaged in like Twitter X kind of form, like 2-3 paragraphs, a complex issue, and we make a statement, all foreigners should stop, or the police should do something against foreign-run spaza shops. And I reacted to that, and ultimately my point is just, if we let in people from foreign countries and they're legally here, they're part of our society. If legally they're allowed to run a shop, they're allowed to run a shop. And if they stick to the rule of law, I don't see anything wrong with it. If they're illegally in the country, then we have authorities, and it shouldn't be the mob from next door that burns down and puts a tire around them. But it should be the legal authorities to make sure that someone who's illegal in the country gets deported or dealt with, whatever the rule of law is. And if someone is running a spaza shop and doing illegal practices there, selling products that are not healthy, and then there is the rule of law. Something must be done against it. But it shouldn't be based on that is a foreigner, because there might be a foreigner who's legal in the country, who's in the second or third generation here, who built a proper business according to ethical standards, might employ 2 or 3 South Africans, and is an asset to the community because the people love going there to buy. But we brush them all with the same brush. You know, we generalize, and by doing that, even though we might have an instance, a case, we hurt everyone who's not South African born. It feels like when you speak negatively about foreign spaza shops, it speaks to me. I'm like, hey, is Masifundo spaza? Like so like, hey, I'm legally in the country, everything. I'm sticking to the rule of law, you know. So all I'm always motivating is we must look at, we shouldn't generalize, and apply then the same rules. If someone is legally in the country, let them run their business, and apply the same rule of law that applies to the South Africans. And if they then run it better, then let us as South Africans look, why are they succeeding? Why is that person running the spaza better than my grandfather? What was my grandfather maybe missing in terms of reinvesting, in taking the business further, reinventing, diversification of his business, etc., to make sure your grandfather is still running it, or kind of. So rather look at that instead of coming with a solution, the foreigners must stop doing it. You know? Even though there might be cases they're running it illegally, where we must say, like, okay, rule of law, you know, the authorities must put a stop to that. It's harming our communities, and I know those stories as well. So,
you know, I want you to just let me know what you think of my thought process, right,
right.
when it comes to this thing. And please let me know where I'm going off, right?
Good.
So my sense is it can't be right to have 99.9% of spaza shops only run by a particular type of people. So that's the first thing that I have in my mind. Like,
Okay,
why
now I
is
must
it?
interrupt.
Yeah.
Where's the source that 99.9% are run by, and you're implying that it's foreigners?
Yes.
Is that a stats? Do you have proof of
It's
that?
no.
No.
It's lived experience. It's what
Okay.
you see.
Based, so
you know,
you
which
so
could
that,
be
but
wrong.
okay, we're living in a day and age where that statement could be cut out, and Luphumlo Joka says 99.9% of the percent of the spas.
Please
are run by
don't do
foreigners.
that. Please don't cut
but
this
like-
out.
But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that's populist.
Yeah.
What you're saying right now, and it's that creates hate. It's hate speech ultimately. So if you want to talk about spazas here and go live on the internet with it, we should have the facts in front of us. So we should have the facts, and you should be, if you want to speak
Got
about
you.
it, we would need, and that would be the starting point for me. Like, you make a statement, if 99.9, maybe I respond to it, and then it's like, then we must change it. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's 35%. I don't know what the
Yeah.
percentage is.
Yeah.
So I think and again, that goes down to Twitter X kind of short messages, 99.9% of spaz.
Yeah.
That's most probably not the case, you know. So let's base any conversation that we have on facts.
Got
But
you.
I interrupted you there. But even
Yeah.
there, like 99.9 is basically just polarizing it to most probably it's not the truth. I doubt
It probably isn't.
it is probably not.
Because this is what you see, right? You don't have, for instance, I read an article, but even that article I didn't fact check that says it was actually written by News 24. We'll find that article and put it in the comment section that says the spaza shop industry is valued at, I think, 9 or 10 billion rands, and majority of that is not going anywhere in the economy. All of that is going outside of South Africa because these are businesses that are not registered, you know. So now what you're saying is, which is a good point, that Luphumlo, you should fact check that because that might not be true, you know, instead of just taking it at face value.
So how could we make sure that the money those businesses generate in SA really add value in the country as well, that money circulates here? Are they paying tax? Are they tax registered, you know? Or are they informal spazas? So how do we bring them into the formal industry that we all benefit from it, that they're part of our society, formalization of the informal sector? I'm sure a majority of spazas, whether foreign or local run, I would assume are informally run. And so we're losing out on tax benefits as a society, which could build roads and schools and education and stuff. That's one point. And then my other point is what I feel like we have big corporates in this country,
Which
big
is the other
mining
side.
industries,
Yes.
and their money goes out of the country as well.
Yeah.
Why don't we touch them first?
You know, funny enough that you're saying
why
that.
do we?
Yeah.
And I see that tendency very often in our communities, and I don't want to. Why always look for someone who's weaker? You know, let's go for those and criticize those where the big money is made, and that money is channeled straight overseas, offshore.
Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, not sure if you know Mbuyiseni.
Not personally.
Yeah, but you know, people say he's left the EFF now, he's gone to the ANC. But he actually brought that out when Herman Mashaba was also saying, let's do an anti-spaza shop campaign, take back spaza shop economy, what. Then he said, no, why are we always redirecting people to and ignoring all of these mines and all of that? So you're bringing, that's a very good point. Look, I'm not informed. I'm just sharing my sentiments and views based on what I'm exposed to. And I haven't fact checked this. As you said, the example I gave was of someone in my community. It wasn't actually my grandfather, but he's just an elder that I knew, right? In the community that ran this shop for years and years. And then when he gave it over to the children, they messed it up. And then other people came and took it over, and they built a tavern there, and they're running it beautifully, and it's successful. And to your point, there's a valid business case, right? but there are all these other things on the sidelines, that I think, I don't know, we should talk about it, we should fact check it, and
yeah, we must fact check
you
it.
know?
I think before we go on a platform like that, before we make any short statements on social media, we should really know what we're talking about.
Got you.
Things go viral very quickly. It does a lot of harm to our society because it polarizes, it creates anger, hate within our society. And so we don't know what it leads to. So I think fact checking is essential
100%.
in that.
100%. Last point, your global political viewpoints, in terms of what's happening in the globe currently. What are your views? What are your thoughts? I mean, there's so much of stuff happening. I know that's very
Crazy,
broad. Donald Trump, the statements that he made about South Africa and all of that. And, there's so much of stuff happening. In terms of what you are seeing, what's your sense of politically what's happening in the globe in like 1 or 2 or 3 sentences currently?
Okay, that's a difficult one. I think the world politics are changing at the moment. The whole system is changing. I don't think we will have what was called the West for much longer. If there's a separation between America and its allies in Europe, and we're just working on business level with each other. It's no longer about compromises. America no longer joins the WHO and leaves multilateral systems, and it's about every country for itself. That changes the way politics was since basically the Second World War. Europe's security was always built on the shoulders of America. That seems to change at the moment. And I don't know, to end maybe that on a positive note, maybe there's opportunities in it as well. If the power systems structure changes globally, the BRICS, the Brazils, the Russian, South Africa, India, China, that might be a block that rises and that builds strength. Maybe
De-dollarization.
Africa as its own. I follow a lot of European politics as well, German politics, and all of a sudden, for years and years, they say Europe needs to be able to defend itself. And they say that, but no one wants to put down the money because they know the Americans got our back. All of a sudden, they realize, oops, we really need to look into that. What if, Trump's first term, everyone was like, that's 4 years, let's just wait it out, and then we're going to have a transatlantic president again, which was the case, but now he's back, and who knows what comes after Trump? Maybe it gets worse. So I think all of a sudden, Europe realizes we need to strengthen ourselves, we need to get together, maybe Africa as well, and the BRICS. So I think power dynamics are changing globally, and while it's obviously horrible to, from one day to the next, ending the whole development aid that America has been freezing from one day to the next, and you see the consequences in our sector where people can't get their antiretroviral drugs, etc. But maybe there is, over the coming years, and there has been a call for that in the decolonialization movement for years, that Africa needs to be more independent. Maybe that's the time now where things change, and the whole global map might be redesigned, and hopefully for the better, and hopefully not towards World War III and more conflict, and because there's, I think, that possibility as well. If you look at the lines of conflict on this planet, that certain conflicts, whether it's Middle East or Ukraine, could actually expand. And
so that's a very educated answer you just gave me. It's very smart. Look at how you look at it.
Now I'm happy because I studied political science. So.
Man, thank you for sitting down with us, Mr. Jonas.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Really I always enjoy talking to you. I know I learn a lot from you. And I know I said that was my last, but what do you want to be remembered as? Just take a second to think about that before you answer. What do you want to be remembered? What do you, as Jonas Schumacher, want to be remembered as?
When I'm gone?
Yes.
As a good father.
Good father.
Yes, I've got 2 children. They're my priority number 1. If I'm remembered as a good dad, that is all that matters.
It's amazing. It's a good father. Thanks a lot. Jonas Schumacher. Schumacher. Please check out Masifunde. I think it's masifunda.org.za or just
Masifunda.org.
masifunda.org. Check out the work that they're doing. They're out here in Walmart Township doing amazing stuff. Go out to their Facebook page. You used to have a Twitter account. I'm not sure if you still do. That was a German.
We don't support
That was
Elon
a
Musk
German.
anymore, but we...
Did you hear what he just said? It doesn't support Elon Musk.
You need to know who's in your corner. But we have a Facebook account, Masifunda, and
Instagram,
obviously.
I know.
But did I mention that we have a coffee shop that sells the best cappuccino in town?
Shit.
So yeah.
What a nice way to go out. It's a GLC podcast with Luphumlo.